The mop slapped against the linoleum with a rhythmic squeak, echoing down the long, fluorescent-lit hallway of Fort Huxley. It was 4:47 a.m., and while the rest of the base slept or prepared for morning drills, Joe Carson mopped in silence. He was a janitor or a civilian hiree, and people rarely noticed him unless there was a spill to clean up or coffee to refill. Most didn't know he'd been a master mechanic before the layoffs. Fewer still knew about the cancer that had taken his wife 2 years ago. What they did know was that Joe brought his 6-year-old daughter, Maddie, to the Bass daycare every morning with a thermos of hot chocolate and a lopsided smile. They called him Mr. Mop behind his back. Some did it with affection, others a broken bar not so much. None were crueler than Captain Sean Rickey of the base's golden boy. Decorated in Afghanistan, idolized by recruits, Rourke was everything Joe wasn't: strong, respected, seemingly invincible, and he hated weakness. The first incident was small. Joe had just finished wiping down the officers' break room when Rourke walked in, laughing with 2 lieutenants. They looked at Joe, then at each other. "You missed a spot, Mr. Mop," Rourke said with a smirk, pointing to an invisible stain. The lieutenants laughed. Joe simply nodded, wiped the spot, and left quietly. But the jokes didn't stop. Over the weeks, they grew louder, bolder. Sometimes, even Maddie heard them in passing when Joe dropped her off. One night, she asked, "Daddy, why does that man hate you?" Joe only kissed her forehead and whispered, "Some people laugh because they're scared to feel." Everything changed the day the base's mechanical systems crashed. The heating system went down mid-January, a barracks freezing, water lines bursting, emergency alerts ringing through the compound. The maintenance team scrambled but couldn't diagnose the issue. Technicians estimated 3 days to fix it. Morale plummeted. Rourke, ever the leader, barked orders but offered no solutions. That night, Joe stayed late, staring at the base's old schematics on the break room wall. He recognized the outdated boiler system. It was similar to the one he'd once built in his previous life. Without asking permission, he climbed into the sub-basement. By morning, the heat was back. No one saw him do it, but someone noticed. The base commander. At that morning's assembly, a crowd of soldiers stood shivering, bundled in coats, unsure how the crisis had ended overnight. The commander strode out onto the field. "I'd like to recognize the person responsible for restoring our systems last night," he said. Heads turned. He gestured to Joe, standing in the back in his faded janitor's uniform, holding a mop. This man didn't wait for orders. He didn't complain. He just saw a problem and fixed it. Not for recognition, not for rank, but because it was the right thing to do. The commander turned to Rourke, whose arms were folded tightly. "Captain Rourke, I believe an apology is in order." The silence that followed could have swallowed the sun. Rourke stepped forward, his eyes scanning the sea of faces, then locked on Joe. His jaw twitched. "I'm sorry," he said, not loudly, but clearly. Joe nodded, offering a small, quiet smile. Weeks passed. The jokes stopped. Rourke stopped sneering. Recruits stopped whispering. But the best moment came on a crisp February afternoon when Joe walked into the break room and found a thermos sitting neatly on the table. A note attached. "Thanks for keeping us warm, Mr. Carson. You're more than we deserve. ACPT. SR." Joe smiled, unscrewed the cap, and took a sip. Hot chocolate. Conclusion: sometimes, heroes don't wear medals. They carry mops. They pack school lunches. They hold their heads high even when the world looks down on them. Joe Carson never sought admiration. He just wanted to do right by his daughter, and along the way, reminded the whole base that dignity isn't about rank, but resilience. And in the coldest moment, his quiet warmth changed everything.